Commander Hyun-woo looked through the window of his small ship at the massive alien vessel floating in space. The alien ship was 10 times bigger than his own. It looked like a giant metal fortress with sharp edges and weapon ports. The humans had called it beautiful, but Hyun-woo thought it looked like something built for war. "We are almost there, Commander," said Sora from her seat at the controls. She was the best engineer Earth had, and her calm voice always made Hyun-woo feel better. "The aliens are sending us docking instructions now." Hyun-woo nodded and turned to look at his small crew. Jin-ho sat checking his medical supplies for the 3rd time. The young doctor was nervous, but he tried not to show it. Next to him, Yuna was reading through her cultural notes about the Velcari race. She knew more about alien customs than anyone else on Earth. "Remember, everyone," Hyun-woo said. "This is the first time humans will meet the Galactic Council, officially. Everything we do today will decide how they see our entire species." The ship shook gently as it connected to the alien vessel. A loud voice spoke in perfect English through their speakers. "Human delegation, you are cleared to board. Follow the blue lights to the meeting room." Hyun-woo straightened his dark blue uniform and checked that his translation device was working. The other 3 did the same. They had practiced this moment 100 times, but nothing could prepare them for the real thing. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The air that came through smelled different, cleaner somehow, but also cold. Hyun-woo stepped through first, followed by his team. The hallway beyond was huge. The ceiling was so high that Hyun-woo felt like an ant walking through a cathedral. Blue lights in the floor led them forward. Their footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. Everything was made of smooth metal that reflected their faces. There were no decorations, no colors except the blue lights. It felt like walking through a machine instead of a ship where people lived. "It is very quiet," Jin-ho whispered. Yuna nodded. "Their culture values strength and efficiency above comfort. They probably think decoration is wasteful." They walked for several minutes before reaching a large door. It opened automatically, revealing a room that took Hyun-woo's breath away. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them. The walls were covered in what looked like battle trophies, weapons, armor pieces, and things Hyun-woo could not identify. In the center of the room stood 5 aliens. Hyun-woo had seen pictures, but seeing the Velcari in person was different. They were tall, much taller than humans. Their skin was dark gray and looked tough like leather. Their eyes were large and completely black. They had no hair, but their heads had bony ridges that looked like natural armor. Each one wore what appeared to be military dress uniform, covered in symbols and medals. The largest Velcari stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rumbling like distant thunder. "I am War Prime Thexis, speaker for the Velcari, Empire, and representative to the Galactic Council. You stand before the honor guard of the greatest warrior race in the galaxy." Hyun-woo bowed slightly, the way Yuna had taught him. "I am Commander Hyun-woo of Earth. These are my advisors, Engineer Sora, Medic Jin-ho, and Cultural Specialist Yuna. We come in peace, seeking friendship between our peoples." War Prime Thexis looked down at the humans with what might have been curiosity. "Your people come from what our databases call a death world. This suggests your planet has many natural disasters and dangerous conditions. Yet you appear fragile." The other Velcari made sounds that might have been laughter. One of them, slightly smaller than Thexis, spoke up. "These soft creatures survived a death world? Perhaps your databases are wrong, War Prime." Hyunwoo felt his team tense beside him, but he kept his voice calm. Earth has its challenges, but humans have learned to adapt. We have survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and storms that could destroy cities. We have also learned to work together. Adaptation. Thexis repeated the word like he was tasting it. The Velcari do not adapt. We conquer. We have taken 47 star systems through superior strength and tactical skill. Our warriors are bred for battle from birth. Different approaches for different peoples, Hyunwoo replied diplomatically. Perhaps we could learn from each other. Thexis studied the humans for a long moment. His black eyes seemed to see everything. Your species intrigues me, Commander. Our intelligence reports say humans have no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no armor plating. Your muscles are weak compared to most galactic species, yet you claim to have mastered a death world. Sora spoke for the first time since entering the room. We use tools and technology to overcome our physical limitations. We also work in groups to solve problems that would be impossible alone. Tools, another Velcari said with obvious disgust. Warriors should depend on their own strength, not on machines. Yet here we are, Jinho said quietly, traveling between stars in ships we built ourselves. The room fell silent. Hyunwoo could feel the tension building. These aliens clearly believed that physical strength was everything. They seemed unable to understand how humans could have achieved space travel without being natural warriors. Thexis walked closer to the humans. Standing near him, Hyunwoo realized just how large the alien was. Thexis could probably break any of them in half without effort. Your technology is impressive for such a young species, the War Prime admitted, but technology can be copied. What cannot be copied is the warrior spirit. Do humans possess this spirit? In our own way, Hyunwoo answered carefully. Perhaps we shall see, Thexis said. He turned to his honor guard and spoke in their own language for several seconds. Then he looked back at the humans. The Galactic Council requires cultural exchange before full diplomatic relations can begin. We propose a traditional sharing of sustenance, what you might call a meal together. Yuna stepped forward. We would be honored to share food with the Velcari. In human culture, sharing meals is a sign of friendship and trust. Excellent, Thexis said, showing what might have been a smile. His teeth were sharp and numerous. We will prepare a feast worthy of warriors. You will see how true strength translates into all aspects of life, including sustenance. As the Velcari led them toward what Hyunwoo assumed was a dining area, he caught Yuna's eye. She gave him a tiny nod that meant she understood. This meal would be more than just eating. It would be another test, another way for the aliens to prove their superiority. Hyunwoo smiled to himself. If the Velcari wanted to make this about food, they were about to learn something very interesting about humans and the world they came from. The dining hall was as impressive as everything else on the Velcari ship. The room was huge and empty except for one long metal table in the center. The walls were covered with more battle trophies and weapons. Everything was clean and sharp-edged, like the inside of a military base. War Prime Thexis gestured for the humans to sit on one side of the table. The metal chairs were too big for human bodies, making Hyunwoo feel like a child sitting at an adult table. The Velcari took their places across from them, their large forms making the furniture look normal-sized. Behold, Thexis said proudly, a feast fit for warriors. Velcari servants brought out what looked like military rations. Everything was in perfect geometric shapes, cubes, cylinders, and rectangles in different colors. The food, if it could be called food, looked like it, had been made in a laboratory. Each portion was exactly the same size and was placed on the table with military precision. "This is our battle sustenance," one of the honor guard explained. Each cube contains the perfect balance of proteins, carbohydrates, and minerals needed for optimal combat performance. The red cubes provide energy for sustained fighting. The blue cubes repair muscle damage from battle. The yellow cubes sharpen mental focus for tactical planning. Jinho picked up one of the cubes and examined it carefully. It felt like plastic and had no smell at all. "Very efficient," he said politely. "Efficiency is everything," Thexus declared. "A warrior cannot waste time on unnecessary activities like food preparation. Sustenance must be consumed quickly so the warrior can return to training or battle." Sora watched as the Velcari ate their cubes without any sign of enjoyment. They chewed mechanically, like machines processing fuel. There was no conversation during eating, no pleasure, no social interaction. It was purely functional. "Do all Velcari eat this way?" Yuna asked carefully. "Of course," Thexus replied, looking surprised by the question. "How else would one consume sustenance? Our food scientists have eliminated all waste from the eating process. No time is lost, no energy is wasted on unnecessary flavors or textures." The humans exchanged glances. Hyunwoo realized that the Velcari had no concept of food as anything other than fuel. They had turned eating into another military exercise. "On Earth," Hyunwoo said slowly, "humans have a different relationship with food. We prepare meals together, share them with family and friends, and use food to celebrate important events." "Celebrate with sustenance?" Another Velcari looked confused. "How does one celebrate with fuel?" "Well," Sora began, "humans have developed thousands of different ways to prepare food. We combine ingredients, use heat and cold to change textures, and add seasonings to create different flavors." "Seasonings?" Thexus leaned forward, his black eyes focusing intently on Sora. "You add unnecessary substances to your fuel?" "They make food taste better," Jinho explained. "Eating becomes enjoyable instead of just necessary." The Velcari looked at each other in what was clearly amazement. The concept of enjoying food seemed as foreign to them as breathing underwater would be to humans. "Your species wastes time making sustenance enjoyable?" The War Prime's voice carried a mix of confusion and curiosity. "This seems inefficient for warriors." "Perhaps," Yuna said carefully, "we could prepare a human meal for you to try? It might help us understand each other better." Thexus was quiet for a long moment, clearly thinking. The honor guard waited for his decision without speaking. Finally, he nodded slowly. "This would be educational. We are curious about the customs of Deathworld inhabitants. Perhaps this explains how such fragile beings survived a dangerous planet. We would need access to your food synthesizers and storage systems," Hyunwoo said. "Human cuisine requires specific ingredients that need to be prepared in certain ways." "Prepared?" Another Velcari spoke up. "You manipulate your sustenance before consuming it?" "Yes," Sora said. "We cut, mix, heat, cool, and combine different ingredients to create meals." The Velcari exchanged looks that suggested they found this concept both fascinating and disturbing. The idea of spending time changing food before eating it seemed to go against everything they believed about efficiency. This preparation, Thexus said slowly, is this a ritual performed before battle? A way to focus the mind for combat? Not exactly, Yuna replied, trying to find the right words. Food preparation can be relaxing, social, or creative. Sometimes, families prepare meals together as a way to spend time with each other. Families. Together. Changing sustenance. Thexus repeated the words like he was trying to understand a foreign language. And this helps with survival on your death world? In many ways, yes, Hyunwoo said. Working together, sharing, resources, and taking care of each other are important human survival strategies. The War Prime stood up slowly, his full height making him tower over the seated humans. Very well. We will observe this preparation ritual. Perhaps it will reveal the true nature of Death World adaptation. As the Velcari led them toward what appeared to be a food preparation area, Hyunwoo noticed that the aliens seemed nervous. They kept looking at the humans with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion, as if expecting the humans to reveal some hidden warrior nature. What ingredients will you require? Thexus asked as they entered a sterile white room filled with synthesizing equipment and storage units. We will need to replicate some basic Earth foods, Sora said, already examining the alien technology. Vegetables, grains, proteins, and some seasonings. Vegetables? One of the honor guard asked. You consume plant matter? Many different types, Jinho nodded. Roots, leaves, fruits, seeds. And these plants, Thexus said carefully, they are cultivated on your death world. They survive in dangerous conditions. Some do, Yuna answered. Others we grow in protected environments. Humans learned to cultivate food plants thousands of years ago. The Velcari watched as Sora began programming the synthesizers to create ingredients. When the first items materialized, the aliens stepped back in surprise. What appeared were not the clean, geometric shapes they were used to, but organic forms with irregular shapes, varied colors, and different textures. These substances, Thexus said, his voice carrying a note of unease, they appear random, uncontrolled. That is how natural food grows, Hyunwoo explained. Each plant is slightly different. Each fruit has its own shape and flavor. As more ingredients appeared, the Velcari became increasingly agitated. They whispered among themselves in their own language, occasionally pointing at the growing pile of organic materials. War Prime, one of the honor guard said in English, perhaps we should reconsider. These Deathworlders may be more dangerous than our initial assessment suggested. Thexus silenced him with a gesture, but Hyunwoo could see that the alien leader was also becoming concerned. The simple act of gathering ingredients for a meal seemed to be triggering some kind of fear response in these supposedly fearless warriors. We will proceed, Thexus declared, though his voice was less confident than before. We must understand what kind of beings we are dealing with. As the humans began to organize their ingredients and plan their meal preparation, none of them realized that they were about to demonstrate something that would fundamentally change how the galaxy viewed the human species. Sora stood at the food synthesizer, her fingers moving quickly over the control panel. The machine hummed as it created the first ingredients. She smiled as familiar shapes began to appear: carrots, onions, potatoes, and tomatoes. These are vegetables, she explained to the watching Velcari. Plants that humans grow for food. We eat the roots, stems, leaves, and fruits of many different plants. War Prime Thexus moved closer, studying the orange carrots with intense curiosity. These grew in soil on your death world? Yes, Sora replied, picking up a carrot. Underground in the dark. They store energy and nutrients in their roots. The Velcari exchanged worried glances. One of them spoke in their language, and Thexus nodded grimly. My warriors remind me, Thexus said slowly, that on most worlds, organisms that live underground are usually dangerous. They hide from surface predators and often develop defensive mechanisms. Sora laughed, a sound that made the aliens step back. These are harmless. Watch. She took a bite of the raw carrot, crunching it loudly. The Velcari stared in shock. Jin-Ho joined her, taking another carrot and eating it casually. Humans eat many vegetables raw, he said between bites. Some taste better that way. You consume underground organisms. Alive, one of the honor guard whispered. Well, we picked them first, Yuna said, beginning to slice onions with a knife the synthesizer had created. But yes, many vegetables are eaten fresh. As Yuna cut the onions, her eyes began to water. She wiped them with her sleeve and continued cutting. The Velcari watched in growing alarm as the human appeared to be injured by her food preparation, but continued anyway. The plant is attacking you, Thexus said urgently. Your optical organs are leaking. Stop this activity immediately. Oh, this? Yuna looked up, tears still running down her face. Onions do this. They release chemicals when you cut them. It is normal. The tears stop when you finish cutting. The plant has chemical weapons? The War Prime's voice rose in pitch. And you continue to attack it despite being injured? It is not really an injury, Jin-Ho explained calmly. The chemical just irritates the eyes. It goes away quickly. Humans have been eating onions for thousands of years. The Velcari moved further back as Yuna continued chopping. To them, it looked like a human was engaged in combat with a chemically armed plant organism and was winning despite taking damage. Sora began working on the next set of ingredients. Now I will prepare some protein, she announced cheerfully. The synthesizer created what appeared to be slabs of red meat. This is beef, Sora explained, holding up a piece. It comes from large animals called cattle that humans domesticated long ago. Domesticated? Thexus asked carefully. We captured wild cattle and bred them to be docile and provide food, Hyunwoo explained. Humans learned to control many dangerous animals this way. The idea that humans had captured and controlled dangerous beasts seemed to disturb the Velcari even more than the chemical weapon plants. They whispered among themselves in increasingly agitated tones. But the real shock came when Jin-Ho began preparing what he called seafood. The synthesizer created shapes that made the Velcari step back in terror, things with shells, claws, and defensive spikes. These are shellfish, Jin-Ho said happily, holding up what looked like a heavily armored creature with large claws. Lobsters, crabs, and shrimp, they live in the ocean. Ocean? One of the honor guards squeaked. Large bodies of water on Earth, Yuna explained while continuing to battle the onions. Some parts are very deep with crushing pressure and no light. Many dangerous predators live there. Jin-Ho began removing the shells from the creatures with practiced efficiency. To the Velcari, it looked like he was calmly dismantling the natural armor of what were clearly designed to be combat organisms. This one, Jin-Ho said, holding up a shrimp, lives in water so deep that the pressure would crush most surface creatures instantly. And this, he picked up a crab claw. These animals have claws strong enough to break human fingers, but the meat inside tastes very good. You hunt armored predators from the crushing depths? Thexus's voice was barely a whisper. For pleasure? Well, we mostly farm them now, Sora said casually, beginning to cut the beef into smaller pieces. But yes, humans have always eaten seafood. Fishing is one of our oldest activities. The aliens watched in horrified fascination as the humans continued their food preparation. Every ingredient seemed to come from something that would be considered extremely dangerous on most worlds. Hyunwoo noticed their distress and tried to be reassuring. Do not worry. This is just basic food preparation. We are not making anything too complicated since you are not used to human cuisine. Too complicated? Thexus repeated faintly. Yes, Yuna said, wiping her streaming eyes again. For a special occasion, we might prepare more exotic dishes. Things like octopus. That is an 8-armed creature with a beak and the ability to change colors for camouflage. The Velcari made sounds of distress. The honor guard were now huddled together, watching the humans like they might suddenly attack. Or pufferfish, Jinho added cheerfully as he continued dismantling sea creatures. That is a fish that inflates itself when threatened and contains enough poison to kill several humans. You have to prepare it very carefully or it will kill. You eat poisonous creatures? One of the Velcari managed to ask. Only if they taste good, Sora replied with a smile. The danger makes it more exciting. By now, the food preparation area smelled like a mixture of chemicals from the onions and what the Velcari could only assume were the battle pheromones of dismantled sea predators. The humans worked calmly in this toxic environment, occasionally, tasting their ingredients and making pleased sounds. This is your normal food preparation? Thexus asked, his large frame seeming to shrink as he watched. This is very simple, Hyunwoo assured him. We are just making a basic meal, nothing fancy. The War Prime looked at his honor guard. Several of them appeared to be feeling sick. These were warriors who had conquered star systems, but watching humans casually prepare a meal was breaking their spirits. Perhaps, Thexus said weakly, we should observe from a greater distance for scientific purposes. As the Velcari retreated to the far side of the room, the humans continued their cooking preparation, completely unaware that they had just demonstrated why Earth was classified as a death world. To them, they were just making dinner. To the aliens, they were watching apex predators casually process their prey while being attacked by chemical weapons and somehow enjoying the entire experience. The smell of cooking food began to fill the air, and the Velcari could only wonder what. Fresh horrors awaited them when these death world creatures actually began to consume their meal. The humans finished their preparation and began carrying dishes to the dining table. The Velcari watched from their safe distance as plate after plate of what looked like processed combat organisms was arranged before them. Dinner is ready, Hyunwoo announced with obvious pride. The aliens approached the table slowly, like warriors entering a potential battlefield. What they saw made several of them stop breathing entirely. The lobster, now bright red from cooking, lay on a platter, with its claws spread wide. Even dead and cooked, it looked like a creature designed for underwater combat. Next to it, the crabs were arranged in a pile, their shells cracked open to reveal the meat inside. We cooked the shellfish by boiling them alive, Jinho explained, helpfully. That is the traditional method. It ensures freshness. War Prime Thexus made a choking sound. You tortured them with heat? Well, they were probably dead very quickly, Sora said, sitting down at the table. Humans have been cooking shellfish this way for thousands of years. The vegetables had been transformed by cooking into soft, colorful shapes that released steam and aromatic chemicals into the air. To the Velcari, it smelled like a chemical weapons laboratory mixed with the aftermath of an underwater battle. "This is a salad," Yuna explained, pointing to a bowl filled with green leaves. "Raw, vegetables mixed together. Very healthy. You consume the chemical weapon plants without neutralizing their toxins?" One of the honor guard asked in disbelief. "These are not toxic," Yuna laughed. "Well, not to humans anyway. We bred most of our food plants to be safe to eat." The word bred sent another wave of fear through the Velcari. These humans had not just survived their death world, they had actively modified its life forms to suit their needs. But the real horror began when the humans started eating. Sora picked up the lobster claw and cracked it open with a tool designed for that purpose. She pulled out white meat and ate it with obvious enjoyment. "Delicious," she said. "Sweet and tender." The Velcari stared as she systematically dismantled and consumed the armored predator. Her technique was efficient and practiced, showing that humans had been doing this for a very long time. Jinho began eating the salad, crunching the raw plants loudly. "I love the bitter taste of these greens," he said between bites. "The slight chemical burn adds flavor." "Chemical burn?" Thexus whispered. "Some plants have natural defenses that create a burning sensation when you eat them," Hyun Woo explained, while cutting into his cooked beef. "Humans learn to enjoy that sensation. We call it spicy food." "You enjoy pain while eating?" The War Prime's voice cracked slightly. "Oh yes," Yuna said, adding what looked like red powder to her vegetables. "This is called pepper. It comes from plants that evolved chemical defenses against herbivores. The burning sensation can be quite intense, but it makes food taste better." She took a large bite and immediately began breathing rapidly through her mouth. Her face turned red and tears started flowing from her eyes again. The Velcari watched in absolute horror as she smiled through obvious pain and took another bite. "Too spicy?" Sora asked with concern. "Just right," Yuna gasped, still smiling. "I love the burn." The aliens could not understand what they were seeing. This human was deliberately causing herself pain and enjoying it. It went against every survival instinct they possessed. "On Earth," Hyunwoo said conversationally while eating his beef, "humans have competitions to see who can eat the most painful foods. We breed plants specifically to be more painful to consume." "You breed pain?" one of the honor guards stammered. "We call them hot peppers," Jinho explained, his own face now red from the spicy food. "Some varieties are so powerful they can cause temporary blindness and difficulty breathing. People eat them for fun." The Velcari were no longer just watching. They were studying the humans like scientists observing a completely alien species. Everything about human eating behavior contradicted their understanding of survival instincts. "This is considered mild food," Sora mentioned casually. "We did not want to overwhelm you with Earth cuisine on your first try." "Mild?" Thexus managed to ask. "Yes," Hyunwoo nodded. "For special occasions, humans prepare much more challenging dishes. We have foods that can kill you if prepared incorrectly, foods that move while you eat them, and foods that fight back." "Foods that fight back?" several Velcari said in unison. "Live octopus," Yuna explained, still breathing hard from the pepper burn. "It is considered a delicacy in some human cultures. The tentacles continue moving while you chew them. You have to be careful not to let them grab your throat," The honor guard made collective sounds of distress. One of them appeared to be praying in their native language. And there are fermented foods, Jinho continued, oblivious to the aliens' growing terror. Foods that are partially decomposed by bacteria and fungi. Some smell so strong they can clear an entire room, but they taste amazing. You eat decay? Thexus asked weakly. Cheese is technically controlled decay, Sora said cheerfully. Milk that has been infected with specific bacteria and aged for months or years. The longer it decays, the stronger the flavor becomes. The humans continued eating and describing their food culture while the Velcari stood frozen in horror. Every detail revealed a species that had not just survived on a death world, but had turned survival into an art form. What? Thexus asked in a voice barely above a whisper. What do you eat when you want to celebrate victory in battle? The humans paused in their eating and looked at each other. Slow smiles spread across their faces. Well, Hyunwoo said thoughtfully, that depends on the culture and the occasion. Some humans celebrate with alcohol. That is a poison that affects the brain and makes you feel happy. Others prefer foods that are extremely difficult to obtain or prepare. Like what? Thexus asked, though he looked like he did not really want to know the answer. Fugu, Jinho said immediately. That is the poisonous fish I mentioned earlier. In Japan, specially trained chefs prepare it so that it is safe to eat but still contains just enough poison to make your lips tingle. If the chef makes a mistake, you die. You celebrate by risking death? One of the honor guard whimpered. The danger is part of the appeal, Yuna explained, taking another bite of her painful pepper-covered vegetables. Humans often find that the most dangerous foods taste the best. As the Velcari processed this information, they began to understand something that chilled them to their cores. These humans did not just survive on their death world by avoiding its dangers. They had conquered those dangers so completely that they now consumed them for pleasure, turning their planet's deadliest elements into recreational activities. Fee. Warriors who had conquered 47 star systems suddenly felt very, very small. War Prime Thexus sat down heavily in his chair, his large frame seeming to collapse under the weight of what he had witnessed. His honor guard remained standing, but they looked like soldiers who had just survived a devastating battle. Your victory, celebrations, he said slowly, involve consuming poison that could kill you? Sometimes, Hyunwoo nodded, finishing the last of his beef. It depends on the culture. Some humans prefer extremely hot peppers that cause intense pain. Others choose foods that are very difficult to catch or find. Like what? Thexus asked, though his voice suggested he was afraid of the answer. Century eggs, Yuna said casually. Those are chicken eggs buried in clay and chemicals for months until they turn black and develop a strong ammonia flavor. You bury potential offspring in toxic substances and then eat them? One of the honor guard gasped. The burial process creates unique flavors, Sora explained. Humans appreciate complex tastes that take time to develop. Jinho wiped his mouth with a cloth and smiled. Or lutefisk, that is fish soaked in dangerous chemicals until it becomes gelatinous and develops a smell so strong it can peel paint. Humans in cold climates consider it a delicacy. You make your food chemically dangerous on purpose? Thexus struggled with the concept. Food preparation is an art form for humans, Hyunwoo explained. We spend time and effort creating complex flavors and textures. The more challenging the preparation, the more we appreciate the result. The Velcari looked at each other with, growing understanding and horror. One of the honor guard spoke in their native language, and Thexus nodded grimly. "My warrior asks an important question," Thexus said. "If this is how you prepare food for pleasure, what do your soldiers eat before battle?" The humans exchanged glances and began laughing. The sound made the Velcari step back nervously. "Actually," Sora said, still smiling, "human soldiers often eat very simple food before combat. Basic nutrition bars, simple carbohydrates for energy. Nothing fancy." "But why?" Thexus looked confused. "Should not warriors consume the most powerful substances before battle?" "Combat requires focus," Hyunwoo explained. "Heavy or complex foods can make you slow and tired. Soldiers need energy, not entertainment." This concept seemed to break something in the Velcari's understanding. They had spent the entire meal watching humans casually consume what appeared to be combat rations from hell, only to learn that humans ate simple food when actually preparing for war. "So this meal," Thexus said slowly, "this was not a demonstration of warrior strength?" "This was just dinner," Jinho said cheerfully. "Normal food that humans eat for pleasure." The silence that followed was complete and absolute. The Velcari stared at the humans with expressions that mixed terror, awe, and complete bewilderment. "Normal food," one of the honor guard repeated faintly. "Well, maybe a little fancy since we have guests," Yuna admitted. "Usually we would not prepare lobster and crab on the same day. That is more of a special occasion meal." Thexus stood up slowly and walked to the wall display showing battle trophies from conquered worlds. He stared at them for a long moment before speaking. "The Sir, Velcari have conquered 47 star systems," he said quietly. "We pride ourselves on being the ultimate warriors in the galaxy. We have defeated species with natural armor, chemical weapons, electrical attacks, and mental powers." He turned back to face the humans, his black eyes reflecting something humans had not seen before: fear. "But we have never encountered a species that treats their world's deadliest creatures as casual entertainment. You do not just survive on your death world. You have made its dangers into recreational activities." "Earth is our home," Hyunwoo said simply. "Humans adapt to their environment. If the environment is dangerous, we become more dangerous." "Your species," Thexus continued, "consumes chemical weapons for flavor enhancement. You eat armored predators from crushing depths. You deliberately cause yourselves pain for enjoyment. You turn decomposition into delicacy." Sora nodded. "Food is one of life's great pleasures. Why not make it interesting?" "Because," Thexus said, his voice filled with dawning realization, "normal species develop food production to avoid danger, not to embrace it. You have weaponized the act of eating." The humans looked at each other in confusion. "We have not weaponized anything," Jinho said. "We just like food that tastes good." "Do you not understand?" Thexus asked desperately. "A species that treats poison as seasoning, that hunts armored predators for sport, that turns pain into pleasure. Such a species would be unstoppable in actual combat." "Oh," Yuna said with sudden understanding. "You think we are dangerous because of what we eat?" "I think," Thexus said carefully, "that the Galactic Council has severely underestimated what Deathworld means when applied to humans." He activated a communication device and spoke rapidly in his own language. The humans could not understand the words, but the tone was clearly urgent. "I am contacting the Council immediately." Thexus explained. The Velcari Empire wishes to propose an immediate alliance with humanity. An alliance? Hyunwoo asked, surprised by the sudden change. Commander, Thexus said formally, any species that considers consuming alive armored predators to be normal dinner is not a species the Velcari wish to fight, ever. But we are peaceful, Sora protested. We only came here seeking friendship. Yes, Thexus agreed. And that makes you even more terrifying. You have the power to turn an entire death world into your personal garden, and you choose to use that power to create art from food instead of conquering the galaxy. He paused and looked directly at Hyunwoo. The kind of restraint that requires is the mark of a truly apex species. Jinho smiled and offered Thexus a piece of fruit from the table. Would you like to try some dessert? This is just apple with cinnamon. Very mild. Thexus looked at the offered fruit like it might explode. What? What is cinnamon? Tree bark, Yuna said helpfully. From a tree that produces it as a defense mechanism. Humans grind it up and put it on sweet foods. The War Prime made a sound that might have been laughter or despair. Tree bark. Of course it is. As the communication device crackled with responses from the Galactic Council, Thexus looked at the humans with something approaching worship. The Council is very interested in immediate diplomatic relations, he reported. They are also updating your species classification in our databases. Oh? Hyunwoo asked. What will it say now? Thexus showed his sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. Apex Deathworlders. Approach with extreme caution and overwhelming respect. The humans looked pleased. That sounds much better than just Deathworld inhabitants, Sora said happily. As the Velcari began making arrangements for the humans to address the full Galactic Council, Thexus pulled Hyunwoo aside. Commander, he said quietly, I must ask. What do humans eat when they are truly angry? Hyunwoo thought for a moment, then smiled. Usually whatever we can catch. The War Prime shuddered and walked away, muttering prayers in his native language. The humans finished their dinner, completely unaware that they had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy simply by sharing a meal. To them, it had been a pleasant evening with new friends. To the rest of the galaxy, it was the day they learned why nobody should ever make humans hungry.